This is In Between Them, a podcast where we uncover what it really felt like to be a child of divorce. I am Shannon Darrow, and each episode brings honest stories from brave adults who lived through this as children. This is In Between Them. Let's get going. Well, hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so happy you're doing this.
Oh, thank you. It's so good
Yeah,
to see you. And it's connecting me with people that I don't see all the time. And
I
so
know.
it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
So you're in very sunny Southern California right now.
I
And
am.
lucky.
Expecting our winter to come back any minute.
I'm sure it will. We never get that lucky.
I know.
I want, just so the audience can connect with you a little bit, I just want to give you a minute or two to just give a little bit of where you're at in life, kind of where you work, what you do, just to give everybody a little bit of a feel for who you are.
Okay. I am in Orange County, California, on my second marriage. And no kids, just pets for us. And working for quite a while now for home remodeling firms, doing project management and PR work. Yeah, that's it really. We're local, so I'm just down the street from work, and that's nice.
That's very nice.
Yeah. So
Especially
yeah.
in Southern California, that's very nice.
Hey, right? I'm like 3 miles from my house. It's great.
Oh, wow. You could walk.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think that, we've been friends a very long time.
Yeah.
But I came into your life after your parents got divorced
Yes.
and really have no awareness around your story. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share it with me. What I would love for you to start at is just kind of take me back to how old you were when your parents
Okay.
got divorced, and what do you remember from kind of that transition period in your life, if you weren't too young and have memories of it?
I was, 11 or 12, I want to say. It was like 7th or 8th grade. How old are we then? Yeah, right? 11,
No,
12, 13.
probably 13, 12, 13, maybe. Yeah.
Um, and I know I was at Bernardo. So yeah, it was junior high um, when they split. And I remember probably about a week before both my mom and dad said, we need to have a family meeting. So everybody needs to be home at this time. And my sister and brother and I kind of joked about it within that week, like, they're going to get a divorce. What could this be? Because we had no idea. So, and my sister and brother, what is our age difference? Like 6, 7 years old. So I'm the youngest of three. So brother and sister were like in high school or just graduating. So significant age difference. Um, and anyway, they said, we're having a family meeting. It was the nighttime. They actually had this whole like, okay, sit down. And my mom did most of the talking and said, your dad and I are going to separate. She used the word separate for a while. And we were, or I was at least, because we all have a different perception of our relationship with our parents and our upbringing. Totally floored, completely shocked, blindsided, clueless. They
Were
never
your
fought.
siblings?
Yes. Yep.
So even being older and having much more awareness, they were also shocked.
Yes.
Wow.
100%. Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah. Um, I completely lost it. I was absolutely just level devastated. I was in the kitchen. I remember, you have those vivid memories of the certain events in your life. I was standing over the kitchen sink, just sobbing.
Mm.
My brother was kind of quiet because, those boys, especially then, with their toxic masculinity or however you want to call it, when it was just stone faced. And to date, really doesn't talk much about it or how it made him feel. My sister was kind of tough stuff. She was like, okay, well, I'm not living here anyway, kind of thing, and went on with her young adult life. Not to say that they weren't rocked by it, but it wasn't a collective, let's all sit down as siblings and talk about this. So I just ran and cried to my friends. I remember we went to, I think it was the night of Cinemapolis days, tried to go to a movie that night and I just sobbed and sobbed and sobbed. Yeah, it was terrifying. I was so shook. That was, that's your family and it's what's going to happen, and I
Well, to be
remember.
the youngest of three, and for them to be so much older that actually you kind of can't relate to each other in terms of,
Yeah,
even if they were having all of these feelings, they're not like, you are not even in high school. So your kind of
right.
childhood now is going to be entirely different than theirs was.
Yes.
And nobody knows how to deal with that when you're just
Yeah.
kids, you know.
Yep. Yep. It was so significant and so just I was I was so upset and it really 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 did carry throughout to date till your adult life. I mean, it's just, and at the time they would kind of explain it and it was solely my mom's choice. So I was angry with her. Not to the point of like not having a relationship with her, just sort of being a little bit of like, gosh, mom, why are you splitting up the family kind of a feeling? Like, my sweet poor dad, what? Um, and even that night, I remember because, and I think it's because of the age. Sorry if I'm going all over the place.
You're great.
That night being with friends in those days, like we're dinosaur old, in those days, nobody was really getting a divorce. So I felt embarrassed almost to tell the story to friends. My parents are getting a divorce. Like, oh, well, you know, it was this self esteem thing and this confidence thing. And just like, how are people going to view me or my family? And like, I was embarrassed. I don't know, or shame, or just, I don't know what the word is, but at that age, you feel like, oh, I didn't want to tell anyone almost,
Yeah. Which
know?
is so, it's fascinating because as an adult, you look at that and you're like, that was your parents' relationship. And as an adult who's been divorced, you're like, yeah, I can be embarrassed and feel ashamed and all of that, but it was my thing. You don't realize that a kid is actually taking on that embarrassment and that shame from a
Yes.
different perspective,
Yeah.
but it's not their thing to be embarrassed about,
No.
because it actually has nothing to do with them, but just it's so twisted up, in that. It's yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah. So that was a big part of, I remember just that night specifically,
Yeah,
like, I
yeah,
don't want to tell anyone, this is awful.
yeah.
Um,
What did you do? So I think just because I knew where you live, I think your
yeah,
dad must have moved out and your
right.
mom stayed in the house.
Yeah.
Okay, where
Mom
did your
stayed in the
dad
house.
go?
He went to the other end of town to East Yorba Linda at the time and got an apartment and lived by his office.
Okay.
The thing with my parents splitting, which was entirely different from so many people, even now that we know, they stayed really good friends.
Which is
So we still
amazing.
did family events together, birthdays, holidays. As much as my mom really didn't want to so much, she goes, we got divorced for a reason, but you guys are my kids, and it makes it easier for all of us to just hang out and be together. Which was such a fortunate situation because, like I just said, so many people don't have that sort of outcome.
Right.
You know.
Did you ever sense how difficult that was for her when you guys would
Not
be
until
all
much later when, she didn't just become my mom. Now she was my buddy and in adult language. Then we got to really because there's more to the story. So, divorce
Okay.
is so layered, isn't it?
Okay, go back, go back. Let's not skip
Right.
anything.
Yeah. Um, she I'm sorry, where were we? Oh, I just
Dad
lost it.
moved dad moved to the
Yes.
other end.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, and did you I guess in that because back then, again, we're not that old, but it sounds like we are when we talk about things from, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So lots of people I'm finding had no parenting plans. There was no like
Right.
arrangement.
Yes.
What
Yes.
was
Oh,
the
that's what it was.
initial?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they stayed good friends, and he was around a ton. He'd come over and he'd still do it. He loved his yard at our house. So he'd come over and he'd still be like, "Oh, I'll still, mow the lawn and do the yard." And he'd come over on the weekends. Um, but it wasn't like, "Okay, you'll go stay at dad's sometimes." And he just came over a lot still. So I was able to see him.
and so your foundation a little bit in terms of your
Mhm.
home was not rocked. So like your
Right.
world got rocked, but you didn't now have to split your
Not at
time
all.
and deal with all of those
Not at
types
all.
of things that
No.
kids, yeah,
That
that
kids,
is,
yeah,
okay.
right. Yep. And plus I was older and there was no like, well, I guess it doesn't matter even if you're older, right? People still have to manage like, oh, they're staying with you this weekend or they're da, da, da. Yeah, no, he just would still visit. And they were great friends. My parents have known each other since like the 6th grade and then dated all through high school, all through college. And that that was my mom's person, really. I know. Which kind of led to their demise, I think, because even when I was older, she'd give that advice of date as many people. Don't be a hussy, but date as many people as you can in life so you can see what you like in a partner and what you don't like in a partner. And I
Yeah,
think that's where she kind of did that self reflection of, well, shit, I should have done that.
yeah,
Maybe I wouldn't have been divorced because I was just with one person for such like her whole life.
yeah. Did she ever
So,
tell you that outright, or is that you kind of putting things together?
no, she did tell me that later on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
interesting.
So, yeah, it was a fortunate situation because I know a lot of people don't
Yeah,
have that
yeah.
reality.
So
Um,
how long did he keep kind of freely coming and going?
yeah. Um, Forever, really, till he passed. They were good friends. He would come over when he met his girlfriend that he was with after my mom. She came into our lives. My mom accepted her with grace, and they'd come to holidays and birthdays and everything. I mean, it was like completely fine.
Wow.
So I know that stuff from it was really nice, I guess, because I don't know what it'd have been like had they, you know,
Yeah,
everybody has a different story. And I don't know what it had been like for us had they hated each other or we didn't have what we had. I think it would have changed the trajectory of all of our lives in a big way. But I
yeah,
know, it's like hindsight. I don't, who knows?
yeah. So your mom would have your dad's girlfriend and him
Yeah.
over for
Yeah.
holidays.
Hmm.
Would you also go, like, I don't know if your dad stayed in that apartment or where he ended up, but
Yeah.
would
Okay.
your
So
mom
he ended
also
up
go?
later on moving in with his girlfriend, and
Okay.
they'd have all of us there and invite my mom. Yeah. It
Wow.
was not, yeah. And they got
Interesting.
along great.
So between getting separated at 12 or
Yeah.
13 and high school graduation,
Hmm.
was there obviously they're separated. So that's, one kind of mark in the box. But
Right.
was it as peaceful and easy as it sounds like it was, or were there things that happened prior to kind of graduation or
It
was
really was that peaceful and easy.
that's really
It was
amazing.
just the pain of like, it's funny. I talk about this with Chris, who is my husband now. I cried more for that loss of my family unit and my father at the time than I had for my father's passing, because it was so, I just, the shock was so crazy and it was so painful. And, I didn't have a typical relationship with my dad. He was so kind and he'd give you the shirt off his back, and I could go to him with anything, but we weren't like, I see a lot of my friends now and their relationships with their parents and how their fathers were so involved with academics, with sports, with dance, whatever it may be. My dad was just kind of not like, oh, the women's gonna take care of it to my mom. Not at all. It was just who he, you're only can I've learned this as an adult. You're only capable of what you are capable of. And the relationship that he had with his parents, sorry, a printer just started printing. It's my dad. um, he just nicest guy, but so that was part of my mom wanting to kind of um separate from him. He just wasn't a hands-on kind of guy. She was religious and Catholic, and he wouldn't really go to church with her anymore, not to like go down the road of the details of why. I mean, we can. I'm just saying, like, so losing him then, and then having to sort of reestablish and navigate our relationship going into high school and college years and a young adult. He was like my bro, like my buddy, and but those pivotal growing years, he wasn't hands-on dad. Sidebar, just so you kind of have a like
Yeah.
great guy. I have nothing really bad to say about him at all. It's just we weren't,
Yeah.
I don't know. So I just remember at the time, like, oh my God, I'm young. I was young. I wanted my daddy, you want your dad, you want your parents together.
Yeah. Well, and like you
Now as
said,
an
it's
adult, and I'm sure
yeah.
you've heard this from a lot of people, or there are there are couples in relationships that are like, yeah, I'm not happy, but the kids, but the kids, but the kids. If I had to say anything about it, it's easy for me to say because I don't have kids, but I will tell you, your parents are doing everything for the first time. They're getting married for the first time. They're having kids for the first time. And we put our parents on these pedestals. Like, so I remember at the time just going, why is this happening to my family? Why would my mom do this? And later on, learning my mom's story as an adult woman, having a woman to woman discussion, going, you're just a person too. You were unhappy in your marriage. Your kids we're all okay. Better than that, better that than seeing an unloving relationship where couples are either fighting or they're quiet and not showing affection. Hugs and kisses and normalcy and being like a good, healthy couple in front of your children is so important. And when you're not doing that, I almost think it's worse, just get out of the relationship if you need to. But I can say that now as an adult. At the time, like I said, I'm like, oh my God, this is not happening to me and my
Right.
family.
Yeah.
Now that I am an adult and have that relationship with my mom where we can talk, as friends and learn, like, oh, you were unhappy with dad and these are the XYZ, I get it now and we're all okay. And I would have rather, of course you want everybody to stay together forever, but you
Well,
know,
I think it's really interesting what you hit on, because there are lots of people obviously who stay for various reasons.
sure.
Mm, But I think that what I personally have learned in motherhood, but I think also just being aware, and like I feel like when you get divorced, you go through things, it just makes you look at the world a little differently. Like any other traumatic event affects people in different ways. And I feel as though I'm very aware of how aware my child is.
Yeah.
And so when you say that and you think about
Mhm.
like your parents kind of amicably split, you didn't know why, you were kind of mad at your mom, but ultimately what they were able to continue to do to support you was huge.
Yeah.
had they stayed and it deteriorated more, and like to your point, kids who see yelling and fighting or kids who see silence, none of that is good, you know,
Right.
because every single thing is teaching a child something.
Yep.
And, so I would say to you, okay, so then, up until your graduation from high school was pretty peaceful, but then you go out into the world and you haven't kind of had these conversations with your mom yet, to really get some awareness. And I do want to go back to real quick. The fact that you didn't get more mad at your mom, I think is actually, and like really act out. And because
Yeah,
that's where I think people can also go sideways.
sure.
And I wanted to ask, do you think that it was just innately how you guys connected in your relationship and your bond, or was something done? Did your mom do something? Like, how did she kind of allow you to be mad, but keep you from going sideways, you know?
I I don't know, and I don't was I mad right away? Yeah, I was. I had I had a hard time. I just wasn't that kid that wanted to act out or be mean to her. I mean, I loved her, so I couldn't. It just wasn't in me to start being like a cranky preteen and or teenager and get crazy at her.
Which
Um,
probably goes to the stability of your family prior to that,
yeah,
which is
yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah. And my dad was never like your mom's so I didn't have anything really to work
Right.
with,
There was nothing that
you
was feeding
know?
the fire for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay, so you graduate high school,
Yeah.
and when do you start to kind of feel maybe how it's affected you as a person, you know?
You know, I think I realized it actually in high school. I was getting a lot of headaches and getting really sort of like I didn't want to leave the house. I remember I was such a social butterfly, and then like junior year I started to kind of retreat and self isolate a little bit, and then I was getting a ton of headaches. We ran all these tests, blah blah blah. Oh, Nicole, we think you have clinical depression. So I was like, I what could possibly be wrong? So I remember at the time my mom's like, well, let's get you into therapy. Well, of course I get in there and it's just throw up like the loss of my parents and our family unit and how much it was really affecting me, and had manifested physically to get these headaches. And so going over it with the therapist, it was sort of like, well, you've just dealt with a lot of loss, because there was that, and then we had several deaths in the family and I was dealing with those things. So it really became like loss, loss, loss. We're going to talk about loss. So how are you feeling since your parent, so therapy kind of brought that out of me to realize, oh, this has really affected me a lot. And I'm sad. So worked through that. And in fact, you kind of touched on it earlier, what you don't want your kids to see. So when I explained this to a therapist, oh, my parents never fought and everything was good. She goes, well, that's might be part of the problem. It shocked you so much. Not that your parents were living a lie, but for you to never have heard an argument and to have never seen it coming and know nothing ever discussed. And it was like the rug pulled out from under you. Of course, you're like free falling now into this. What? My dad's moving out of nowhere? What's wrong? You're not getting back together? Anyway, it just yeah, it's stuck and it's stuck and it's stuck until to date. I mean, if I'm in a mood to really sit down and quietly like think about it and reflect, I can still really cry about it. I can go back and miss my family in in those times, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to a tragic death that comes out of
Absolutely.
nowhere,
Yes.
when
Yes.
it's like you're just kind of left with now
Yeah.
what,
Right.
and to be that young,
Yeah.
um, and to be like you're very much a feeler. So on top of it,
Yeah.
you have like these deep feelings where
Yes.
a kid who might not feel as deeply is still going to feel it, but it's just
Right.
different. And that's,
Yeah.
that goes back to really understanding who your kids are,
Yeah.
because understanding the impact of this, like if your parents had processed potentially, how's this going to impact your sister, your brother, and you? It was all very different, but they handled it exactly the same for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you were so young compared to the others. And again,
Yeah.
really the only one left in the house, that
Right.
there could have been a consideration there for maybe there's a different way to handle it for Nicole, or to talk to her,
Right.
or at least maybe after, like, we let you know, but after the fact, like,
Yeah.
how are we dealing with it a little bit differently for her?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I
Did your
know.
mom ever date?
So in recent years, this is a weird, okay. So let me,
Go
I
wherever
have
you want.
yeah, here we go. So I had brought up, which I thought was a dream as a young kid. Mom, where's Dan? Where's Dan? And she'd say, Shh, Nicole, like, don't, as a child, right? I had a memory of sitting in the back seat of someone's car. Talk about kids being sponges. Right. So years and years and years later, before my first wedding, mom and I sat down, we were having girl time, and we decided to have like the friend talk. We've had a few glasses, and we're now adult women. And she said, remember how you'd say, Mom, where's Dan? Where's Dan? That wasn't a dream. She had an affair with one of my parents' friends that they used to play tennis with. Yes. And my dad found out about it and felt horribly sad for my mom. Like, oh, if this is who you want, like, my dad was such a, this is, my dad was a very big softie. Like, now I want to yell, where was your backbone kind of thing, Dad? Because he just was like, Marilyn, if you want to be with him, it's okay. Went and talked to the guy and said, hey, if you love Marilyn, just take good care of her. Like, he was so non-confrontational and just kind of let this
Wow.
slide, but found out where they lived on the East Coast. And then we moved to California, and my mom was like, okay, I'm gonna, try and make my marriage work. We all have children involved. But so this comes to light as an adult female. She goes, well, that was never a dream. And I'm like, wow. She goes, I cannot believe the brain that that's why they say
Yeah.
kids, kids pick up on things. They know things, right? So my brother
Wow.
and sister never knew. She goes, and you would like your little self, Mom, where's Dan? And I'd have to look at you and be like, oh, no, 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 no. She goes, we can laugh about it now, but how horrible is this? And I'm like, Mom. So yeah, that came all out probably, like I said, for our first marriage. So 2002. Yeah.
So, how old
So
were you when you were in the back seat of Dan's car?
two, two and a
2?
half. Yes. I know, because it was before we moved here. She goes, the memory, like, how would you ever,
Wow.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. I know.
Oh
So
my gosh.
there's that.
What your
Right,
mom must have thought when you said
right,
that?
right. So this is sort of weird. So I kind of knew, I'm like, that wasn't a dream. That really happened. So through my life, I would question it. And then I would think, I am carrying this like little piece of burden around or secret. And she knew that wasn't cool. So later she has since apologized and like, I shouldn't have ever, I didn't think you, again, we can laugh about it now,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
how it affected me, who the hell, connect the dots, who
yeah.
knows?
That is so, I
But
mean,
I remember her telling me that as an adult. When she left that night, I went back and this is an adult, sobbed and sobbed and sobbed because I felt so bad for my dad. But then I felt bad for my mom. Like, again, I would say, she is just a human and people make mistakes and she's just doing this for the first time because you put your parents on this. Well, they know everything. They have to do everything
yeah,
right. They make no mistakes. And she had this whole other life going on. She was having an affair. So it
my
really took
gosh.
its toll, though, again, as an adult. So I kind of had to go back and navigate that now and say, okay, grieve through that, go through those emotions, and it's okay now. But
That's,
it was painful. That
yeah,
was
that's
painful
pretty
all over
crazy
again.
to
I was
get
like,
that
what?
to get that information before you're getting married.
I was like, what's
Writing
that?
on that is pretty
Yeah,
funny.
right. So I guess her lesson there was don't go, if you have other side things or hey, if things come up, don't lie. Get through, if you should get married, get married. If not, you can back out now, kind
Yeah,
of
don't
thing.
put your kid in the back seat if you're trying to pull something off.
Oh, crazy.
Oh
Oh,
my
mom.
gosh.
I
Wow.
know. I
Wow.
know. But then I just felt bad for everybody.
Yeah.
But I feel like I could have gone maybe not ever knowing that because it really, really, really broke my heart for my dad.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
did. I
I'm sure
felt
it's easier to just think that they just decided not to be together, not that someone did.
right. Yeah.
But
Yes.
also,
But I know now that that was part of it, of course. And she
right,
said I was
right.
so selfish.
But
I
like,
didn't spend time with
yeah,
my kids like I should have. I was worrying about this other person. I should have been sitting here working on academics and grades with you guys more than I was just kind of out to lunch, not being a good mom and being involved and being aware because I had, you know,
yeah,
stuff on the background going on. I'm like, Mom, it's okay. Wait, what can you?
yeah, yeah. What is actually pretty amazing is we talked about how you were able to have this like peaceful, you know,
Mm,
separation. Um, had you ever known that at a young age, it would have probably derailed that. You know,
right,
it would have at least changed something. Maybe that would have been what
right.
made you really mad at your mom. Maybe, you know what I mean? You could have
Yeah,
said, "Hey, I'm gonna go live with dad. Like, I feel
yes,
so bad for him. I'm gonna go live with him."
yeah,
It just
yeah,
could have changed things in so many ways. And it kind of, whether they did that intentionally or not,
yeah.
who knows? However, it really goes to show that so you were very blindsided and shocked, which was very
Mm,
difficult and sent you down kind of a different spiral. But had they told you this or had you become aware of this, that's also a totally different path to
I
process.
agree.
Maybe there's a middle ground there where like you could have like known a little more, but you didn't need
Yeah,
to know that much,
yeah,
you know?
right.
They could have softened the blow for you in a
Uh-huh.
couple different ways and instead what to your point, nobody's perfect and they're all learning as they're going. They did it in the way they thought was right.
Yeah,
But to people that pay attention or want to do right by their children and are listening, I think that people really grapple with, well, I should tell my kids the truth. And the
yes,
reality is, you should be open and communicate with your kids,
right.
but there is a truth that is not for children because of what it does to the parent child relationships involved.
Agreed.
And so, really working to understand what that should be is important to preserve their childhood, the relationships, and all of
Agreed.
it. And your
Right.
parents did an amazing job at maintaining this
Yeah.
level of peace
Yeah.
that I think is, especially after knowing that,
I
like
know.
when I was listening to you at first, I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. They must have
Right.
just really been like, we're not right for each other.
Right.
But when you throw that in where your dad knew about it, he could
Yeah.
have been so a million different things, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And wow. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
and he really loved her and he really wanted to stay and make it work, but she outgrew him basically in the end and was just like, I know.
So, kind of as you have well, wait, I have to ask, did your mom ever, like, circle back to Dan later?
Oh, yeah, so yes, she circled back 5 years ago, and my dad knew about it again because she said, "Guess who's back?" And he was like, "No." Like they now
Oh
again
my
joke about it.
wow.
And but Mary, his girlfriend, told me, when your mom started talking to Dan again, your dad even went, he would sit at home with Mary, and Mary was very cool like that, very understanding. She had been married previously too, so, and she's not a drama and she's not a jealous person, so she said, your dad learning about your mom finding Dan again in her life, it sent him, so he had a few days of lots of cigarettes and having some tears and some heart to hearts with his, I know. So it was a lot. And he said even to the day he died, I will always love your mother. I love her.
Yeah, yeah,
I love Mary too, but your mom was my person.
yeah. Amazing. It's
I
amazing
know.
how deep that stuff
Uh-huh.
goes after so many changes and different things that
I know. I know. And I know, like we just say it so often, it's not everybody's reality, like not
yeah,
at all,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. So, when you kind of started navigating relationships and marriage and,
Mm.
been married
Yeah.
twice,
Yeah.
no judgment. I'm in the, second marriage party
I
too,
know,
or
right?
second marriage bucket. But do you see how any of that impacted those decisions, those relationships, or are you kind of different issues type of thing?
I I don't know. It's hard to say sometimes. Like, did any of this, change me as a person so I am the way I am with relationships? Or, I mean, it's not like I've been married 10 times, but you know what I mean? It's hard. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Did you
I
ever
always just saw like my dad doting on my mom and really being a very kind, loving person that would like give the shirt off of his back. So, and how to treat people.
Mhm.
They say you marry your father or whatever. I mean, not that there has to be pathology to everything, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about how he really didn't want any conflict, you know?
Like I said, people that have to hear that and go through that, and I'm just so fortunate I didn't have to hear or endure
Yeah.
any of that.
Yeah.
But but I do think it is important to, communicate and have a close relationship with your kids. But like you were saying, you can be too young and know too much, and then you steal their childhood and they get burdens and anxieties. And I have a lot of friends that I envy. I'm jealous. I think God, what a good relationship they have with their parents. Mine wasn't exactly like that, but sometimes and not to be judgmental, but in my opinion, sometimes I think they know a little bit too much. They're around adult conversation a little bit too much. Probably not something I would do as a parent. Again, easy for me to say. I don't have children. But I think it's safe to say I probably wouldn't have a lot of the conversation or do things in front of my kids that I know a lot of people do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know, because it changed. Within my family, I've seen it happen to kind of nieces and nephews. You can know too much too soon, and it's a lot. It's a lot more on kids than I think parents realize when they're going through things at the time, you know?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to, like, what you said. I mean, especially if everybody has their first child, it's their first, no matter
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so
right.
anything you're learning or
Sure.
what you're paying attention to you don't know until you're learning it. So your third child,
Right.
whatever, you might know more, but I really do think that so often we just think that like kids are not aware.
Hmm.
And I mean, Dan is the best example I've
It's the
ever
best
heard of.
example. Right.
Kids are so aware.
My
They pick
God.
up on
Right.
everything and
Like, I
and
can't remember
it
my
sticks
history
with
books
them.
from high school, but my mom's like, but how do you remember something from when you're two and a half?
Yeah.
Crazy.
But
You know?
also, I wonder, and I'm not a psychologist, but you obviously knew your dad. So you wonder if you're in the back of the car, like my mom and not my dad are here, and if that
Right.
like penetrates your brain a
Right.
little differently, that it
Yes.
sticks in a way that other things don't, because you're like, this is something's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
know.
Right.
It's really, really funny. So,
I
okay,
know.
when you look back and go, is there anything that, I mean, you had such a, I don't want to say a nice experience, but compared to
No.
tons, you
Yeah,
did.
right, right.
Um, you know, if we haven't touched on anything that you think mattered or that made a difference or that was
Mm,
significant to the story, I know that you have family around.
yeah.
How did family evolve around this? Did anything break there, or did family still stay in contact as well?
Um, my dad's side kind shunned my mom pretty much. Stopped talking to her. And that was hard on us, of course, because we were close to the East Coast family, grandma, aunts and uncles, cousins. Um, but again, looking back, I think, well, I guess if someone left one of my siblings as their sister, I'd kind of play like the, well, screw you. This is my loyalty is to my brother or my sister, and I side with them. So that my mom's side still talked to my dad, hung out with my dad, loved him through and through. But it was his side that really was just stopped talking to her up until his death. And then when we spread his ashes a couple years ago, everybody came together. My mom was there. She came for the ashes. My dad's sister and brother, my aunt and uncle, were completely pleasant to her, hugs and kisses. We hung out the entire time. It was wonderful. It was fine. And promised to keep in touch and realized, life happens. Kind of there were like those unsaid apologies, like, sorry we didn't keep in touch. You know,
Yeah.
shit happens, divorce happens. We were there for my brother, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and my mom was fine. It was great. But
It
yeah.
sounds like what was not a factor in this was a lot of anger
Yeah.
from lots of people. Like
Yes.
people had their emotions in check
Yes.
around this, from
Yeah.
extended family to your
Yeah.
parents.
Yeah.
And I think that that collectively was huge for you and your
Hmm.
siblings, you know? Because
I
as a
agree.
friend of yours, I never got a negative feeling about
Right.
anyone in your life
Right.
ever. There was,
Right.
I
I'd
think I
never
knew
come
your,
running you like, Shannon, my parents are in a huge fight, like
yeah,
that, like ever.
yeah,
Everything was
no,
very, very peaceful and good.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Um, well, so wait, what happened with your mom and Dan?
So they tried, and he was still in New Jersey. At the distance, and just they had, I think they come to learn that so much time had passed and they didn't really know each other, more of adults now, and life and an experience that the time has passed, kind of thing, where it was like, okay, we'll leave that book on the shelf. That was a little moment in time, kind of thing.
Yeah. At least she
Yeah.
tried.
Like, to make an honest woman out of you or dishonest woman out of you, like, how do we say this? I know. I know, but divorce, it is hard. It was when asked when I'm in therapy, like, what is the hard, when did your life change? At what moment did you start feeling all this sadness and this loss? And that's what I bring up every time was my
Yeah.
parents' divorce,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I
And
can't imagine how it must feel for a child that like has fighting parents, abusive parents, what it's just
yeah.
it's decimate for me I was just it was the hardest thing I'd ever been through, and it's stuck for till now, but
Yeah.
it's different. It's like like you said, time can change it changes you, but it's never gone. I would have given anything to have that family back, but it never really went away either because he was still around. So it
Yeah,
was,
and
you know.
that's I mean, I think that's the most beautiful thing because
Yeah.
you were still able to have something. I think of the kids whose parents just fight and can't
I
get it
know.
together and don't see how horribly it's impacting. Like,
Oh,
to your point, the divorce is traumatic in and of itself, then let
yes.
alone everything else that happens, and that's kind of my whole point with this whole thing is parents need to understand every single impact that their choices to get divorced are having on their children,
Hmm.
because choosing to get divorced is only one piece of it. It is the
Yeah.
most significant. It is the
Yeah.
most traumatic. But from that point, you can make it better or you can make
Yeah.
it worse,
Right.
and
Right.
why would you do that to your kids? You
Right.
have a choice,
Right.
and
Yeah.
yes, in some
And
circumstances,
right.
it's not as easy to
Right.
say, but
Right. Right. I
there
know.
I think there's a lot of people that make it hard when they don't have to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yep. And
yeah,
if you're unhappy and you have kids, I'm telling you, I feel like you're just going to make it, it's so hard to think, well, I can't rock my kid's world, but you're going to be a better person. You're going to be a better parent if you're happy. Then you exude that and it's the domino. If it goes to your children, it goes to the world around you and everything you do.
yeah. I
But
mean,
it is I mean, my first marriage, we didn't have kids, and that was incredibly difficult, you know? So I can't imagine what it's like to have a piece of you and another person and let go. I can't even fathom it, you
yeah,
know?
and
So, like I
and
said, it's easy for me to sit back and say that, just get out, but I don't know.
I think that if parents came to it from a place of every single thing I'm doing, I'm teaching my child,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? Like every single thing, every way I'm handling this and everything in life, I'm teaching my child. They are watching
Right.
me.
Yeah.
So, to your parents' point, they handled it really well. And that allowed you something that would not have happened if they had not chosen
Yeah.
to do it that way.
Right.
That's like weirdly a gift that came out
Right.
of their divorce, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's really great to hear a good story, even though it is a hard story. But
Yeah.
I think it's really important to see there's goodness in it when people are like present and make good decisions, even if they don't realize at the time they're making them. You do know when you're making a wrong one, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thank you so much for sharing
Oh
your
my gosh, of
story.
course.
And I have one final question
Yeah.
that is completely unrelated to all of this, but
Okay.
totally on the spot, but it's completely light. What is the most recent book that you have read that you loved that you would recommend?
Oh my gosh, it's well, Hope. Was it called Hope? The Jane Goodall one that was well, it wasn't just released, but it came to light even more so after her
Oh,
passing. And I'm kind of like still going through it because I'm a bad reader. Um, but
but
it's
you love
about
it.
how she came to study the apes and the earth and the planet, and how times are so crazy right now on every level, and how it's so huge to keep staying in a positive, have hope, and do what you can kind of,
Yeah, yeah.
you know.
When was the book written, do you know?
It was while she was alive, obviously, a few years ago.
So it's not
No.
like from the 80s, it's more recent.
Yeah, no, I don't
Okay,
think so. Yeah, no.
okay. That's a great one because I think that
Yeah.
that's not what people are reading,
Yeah,
you
right? I
know, in
know.
large part, and that's probably a good reminder in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. So,
Yeah.
well, thank you so much for this. It was
Thanks for
a
having me.
pleasure
It
to
was a
talk
good
to you.
therapy for today.
Oh
Anytime.
my, yes. Have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks for tuning in. Together we can shape healthier paths for families to do divorce better. See you next time on In Between Them.